see him. So maybe you guys want to use it for the 9 days. I leave it up to. I think you've certainly been here every night, right? Yeah, you've been here every night too on Shabbos. Well, not tomorrow night, so I'll be able to make the see him.
That's another. No, I haven't missed Shabbos.
The Shabbos he hasn't missed.
Missed Shabbos?
Shabbos.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know if you missed Shabbos either yet so far. Have you missed any time on Shabbos? Well, I guess if you want to make a siyum during the 9 days, I'm not trying to push anything.
I may be missing. I'll be late on next Wednesday night.
Oh, you're right. It is.
It's coming up. It's coming up. 12 more days.
That's true.
All right. Less. I mean, it's obviously less than 12.
Actually, I go to Rome.
Another movie that he made that was bad. It was a remake of a good movie. The way he gets fat and thin.
Oh, yes.
All right, you're on tape now. We are on. We're on Daf Pei Alpha and Base. We are. We're at Halacha Tes Pei Alpha and Base. Akum Sheidli gets on there. You have a guy who lit a candle. Mishtamish Loro Yisrael. A Jew can use the light of the candle. Being Bishul Yisrael, if however the guy lit the candle for a Jew, also, then it's forbidden to use the light of the candle. Milei Mayim Lashkos Behemto. If one filled up water to give to drink to his cow, a goy, Mashka Achrav Yisrael, then the Jew can use the water subsequently. Being Bishul Yisrael, if he filled up the water for the Jew, also it's forbidden. Also, Akum Kevich Leribov, the guy made a ramp to go down from a boat on Shabbos. Yerid Akum Yisrael, you can follow him. Bim Bishvil Yisrael, if he made the ramp for the Jew, also is forbidden. Meister Gamliel came as a Meister Gamliel and the elders show you Bayin Bispino. They came in a boat on Shabbos. Vasa Akum Kevich Leribov, and the guy made a ramp to go down. B'yard the boat came, and all the elders went down after him. Okay, Litzorach Yisrael. What about the case where it's Litzorach and Litzorach Yisrael? In other words, he did it both for himself and for the Jew, right? What's the halacha in that case? So, in fact, the Mishnah itself seems to indicate, the Mashbiach points out, that it's mutter, because it says, Im Bishvil Yisrael also. If he did it for the Jew, it's also, right? However, if he didn't do it for the Jew, but rather he did it for both, right, not just for the Jew, then it would be permitted. So, that's more, but let's see what we see from this case. Shmuel Ikbil Gabi Chad Parsoi. Shmuel was a guest by a certain Persian. Now, Mashbiach points out it's critical that he was a guest by the Persian. That's an important point here. Okay, it's not for naught that that's brought down. Ife Butzina. The candle went out. Azal Au Parsoi. So the Persian guy went, by Madlakt, and he wanted to go light it again. Shmuel turned around. He wouldn't use the candle. In fact, Mashbiach wants to say he was about to leave the house, but he turned around and used the candle. Came the Chazitzi Misatsu B'Shtaroisav. Once he saw that the guy was doing it in order to look at his documents, Yada Delo Begine Adlokay, so he knew it wasn't lit for him. Vavach Shmuel Apoy, and Shmuel turned back and remained. So, Rabbi Yaakov said, Rabbi Yaakov Bracha, Hadamar L'Tzorach Yisrael Aser. It sounds like initially Shmuel knew that Shmuel assumed it was for his purpose only, and then Shmuel realized it was both for him and for the goy. No, that was the opposite. That Shmuel initially thought it was for both him and the goy, and then he realized it's only for the goy, and that's why he said it was mutter. But it sounds like initially he thought it was also, even though it was for both him and the goy. Rabbi Yaina, so we see here that it's also, right? It's also where it's for both him and the goy. Rabbi Yaina said Shanahi. There it's different. There, the way Mashbiach explains very nicely, he says there Shmuel was in somebody else's house, so if it was for both him and the guy, so he should have just left. In your own house, if it's for both you and the guy, then you can remain. That's how we distinguish in the case of Shmuel and the case in the Mishnah. Again, in your own house, we don't make you leave your own house not to have hanah. As long as the guy did it for both you and him, it's okay, you can remain. In the guy's house, if the guy did it for both you and him, since you're a guest in his house, just leave, so you won't get any hanah.
I don't understand the logic, because if it's in your own house and the guy is lighting it, for sure it's going to be for you.
No, we know for sure he did it for both. No, it's true, but we know for sure he did it for both. In case where we know he did it for both of you, not where we don't know. We know for sure he did it for both of you. But so since it's your house, we say you get to stay. We're at somebody else's house, so there we say, since part of the malach he did it for you, so then leave. Okay, I understand what you're saying. You're looking at what the motivation is, but we know what the motivation is.
That sounds like the guy should have to stay in the Jew's house.
I understand very well what you're saying. You're saying that where it takes place should indicate to us the motivation.
Yes.
But the Gemara is not talking about that case. The Gemara is not talking about where the motivations are known for us known to us independently. So the motivations are not what's in question. You're right. We're talking motivation, so it's more likely if it took place in the Jew's house, it's for the Jew. If it took place in the guy's house, it's for the guys. But that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the motivations are equally divided. The question is now what the Jew has to do. So Shmuel would have left because it was in somebody else's house, right? Where it has been in his own house, and Shmuel remained as it seems to be the indication in our Mishnah. Okay? Rabbi Lezer said, if that's the case, that we're not matriach on a person to leave his house, lama hafach Shmuel apoi. Why did Shmuel turn back to use the light? In other words, Shmuel had no way of knowing what he's saying. Shmuel had no way of knowing whether it was lit solely for him, solely for the guy, or for both the guy and the Jew. What did Shmuel see? He just saw that the guy started reading his Taurus, right? Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, Shmuel should not have turned around, meaning to not have turned back to use the light. He should have assumed it was lit 50-50 and should have left the house. So he says, by virtue of the fact that we see that Shmuel remained in the house, it must be that originally he thought it was being lit only for himself, only for the Jew. And that's where he intended to leave. And then when he saw it being lit, at least for both of them, because the guy was using the light, that's when he decided to stay. So he rejects the original dichotomy. The original dichotomy is between whether it's your house or the other guy's house. He says if that's the case, Shmuel should have left anyway, because it was another guy's house. He doesn't know for sure that the guy lit exclusively for himself and not for Shmuel. So then the Gemara says, no. The Gemara gives a different dichotomy. The Gemara is the dichotomy is Rabbi Lezer intends to indicate a different dichotomy. If the guy does it for both you and for him, it's permissible. What Shmuel thought originally is that the guy was doing it exclusively for him, Shmuel, and not for himself, the guy. Okay?
Now, maybe Shmuel couldn't leave because of that Kisharon. I mean, he said a Persian royalty.
We don't know it's royalty. It doesn't say royalty. No, it doesn't say royalty. It just says Parsi. So, you're right. That could have been a factor, but we don't see that was... Nobody takes that into account, so I guess we knew somehow that wasn't one of the factors here. You're right. Theoretically, it could be an issue. It says, going back to the Mishnah, we know that this, when in fact what took place there, the Bavli I think brought this down even, is that they said to Rabban Gamliel, can we go down? Armelani said, since he didn't do it for us, we're allowed to go down. Now, I think, if I recall correctly, in the little letter here in the Amish, but seems to assist me, is that the maskon of the Bavli is not like the Yerushalmi in our sugya. In other words, the Yerushalmi here seems to come to the conclusion that if you did it for both the Jew and the Goy, it's permissible.
Okay,
right? We don't pass in that way.
Really?
We pass it's only mutter if the Jew Goy did it exclusively for himself. Did it for the Jew, it's only mutter after Kadesh Yaseh. Only Motzei Shabbos. Only Motzei Shabbos 7 times elapsed in order to perform the activity. So we don't pass him like this, Gemara. Okay?
We spoke about coffee on Shabbos or the Dunkin' Donuts.
Right, it has to be done for themselves or for a majority of non-Jews. Okay? Let's say for that parak. Next parak, Kalkin, when you tell him Shabbos, any objects can be carried on Shabbos, or any containers, let's call them. But that was the same in together with their doors. Even if the doors broke off on Shabbos. Vein of domin of losses abayis are not comparable to the doors of a house, which you cannot carry if they broke off from their hinges, because they weren't prepared from before Shabbos. And what that means, the Gemara is going to explain. So it says the Gemara, Dlosos abayis deruba. There's a deruba here means there's a chiddush. Ruba very often means a rabusa. In Aramaic means a chiddush in Hebrew, a novel concept. Okay, so Dlosos habayis deruba. There's a novel concept, a chiddush by the doors of the house. Dlosos akelim deruban. And there's also a novel concept, the chiddush by the doors of the vessels. Dlosos habayis deruba, the chiddush by the doors of the house. Shabbos, even though they become separated from before Shabbos begins. Also, the Taltlam b'Shabbos. Even if the door came off the hinges on Erev Shabbos, you're not allowed to move the door on Shabbos. It's not a well-known halacha, but if your door comes off hinges, you're not allowed to move it. It's muktzah. Okay? The Gemara is going to explain. The Gemara didn't explain it yet. That lasas hakelim, the ruba, by lasas hakelim there's a chiddush, by the doors of the objects, of the containers, shava bishin sparkum Shabbos, even though they become removed on Shabbos, nitolim Shabbos, you're allowed to move them on Shabbos. Now what's the difference? It says the Gemara, what does it mean? I mean, the Mishnah Rei says, what does that mean? Says the Gemara, vein tashmishon ela gav karka. Because the doors of the house are made to use on the ground, and therefore they look always like they're part of the binyan. So even to move them, Chazal determined, is similar to, like looks like bona. It's a weak connection, but it's a sufficient connection to ban the carrying thereof. It's a kind of muksa, which comes from, I guess it's almost muksa machmas gufo, just like sticks and stones. So do anything which is designated for the purpose of construction, for use in the ground, that's forbidden to carry on Shabbos, and that's why it's forbidden. Okay? Of course, if you designate before Shabbos to be a table, then, or to use as a bench, then it would be permissible, but it's not about a case where you did not designate it prior to Shabbos beginning. Okay? Lefi shedim min hamucham, again, main tashmish the karka. Rabbi Yavo b'shem Rabbi Elazar. Now, Rabbi Yavo b'shem Elazar said this is in the Bavli as well. But Rishon originally hayu akelim nitolim b'Shabbos. Originally, years ago, all vessels were carried on Shabbos. Kevin shenechshu lios mechali yom tovim b'Shabbos. Once in the days in the Chemia, there was suspicion. Why it says suspicion that people were mechali yom tovim b'Shabbos? As it says. By Yom Yimayim on those days, I saw in Yehuda Dorchim Nikitos b'Shabbos. They're pressing their presses, their wine press, or wine presses on Shabbos. They're pressing wine presses on Shabbos. And they were loading their donkeys on Shabbos, etc. Also in a call. At that point, they forbade everything. They forbade moving any keli, anything. Once people started keeping Shabbos better, they successively allowed more and more stuff. Gradually they allowed everything to carry. Chutz, with the exception of muktzah machmas gufa, or muktzah machmas chesron kis. What's muktzah machmas chesron kis? I caught myself. I said muktzah machmas gufa, but that's not what we're talking about, because we're talking about kelim. Muktzah machmas gufa, something which is muktzah because of its very nature, is something which is not a kli by definition, a stone or a stick, right? Something like that. So we're talking about things which are kelim. What are kelim which are prohibited? So he says, a large saw, the yatzid shel machresha, and the peg of a plow. Since they're very significant and very heavy, so people leave them only in one space. People don't move them on Shabbos. Therefore, they're muktzah. Tziporin is like a bit which drills into metal. In other words, a metal, something which will drill metal is very tough and hard and very important. It remains sharp. Rabbi Shimon Leomer Apahokin, also anchors of a boat, which are obviously very heavy. So since they're very heavy, so they're not to be moved on Shabbos. Meducha, a garlic press. In Yesh Boshum, it's got garlic in it, so you can carry it because it's butzel to the garlic. So it's primary and significant in that case of the garlic, so you can carry the press. Because it contains the garlic. If not, so if not, you cannot carry it. If it's a small press, which is normally left on a table, so it doesn't have specific place, it's not going to be muktzah machmas chesron kis, it's left lying on the table all the time anyway. It's no different than a plate. You can carry on Shabbos, even though its normal lacha is lisser, because what's it normally used for? Pressing garlic, and that's also. But nonetheless, it's not considered to be muktzah machmas chesron kis because it's not choshev. So therefore, at worst, it's it's klisha machta lisser, and therefore you can carry it on Shabbos. Okay?
Now, I may be mixing I know I'm mixing up two concepts. Is that, let's say an anchor, it's very heavy. You need two people. So say, you need two people.
Funny you should bring that up. It will come up later on.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to come up. Okay? So you are mixing concepts, but you're correct anyway. Happens. Okay? So, says no further. We'll see that on all dates. I think we get that. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Ila b'shem Rabbi Elazar said, Rabbi Yaakov Barach b'shem Rabbi Elazar said, now all these limitations we're talking about, The garlic press that has to be small is before they're matir kalim. This is way the times in the Chemia when they still ban the use of all objects on Shabbos, because after it's mutter, so then we don't have to take into account whether it's large, small, because the only things which are muchtam makom case are those things which are large in your koved lem makom, which are the saw and the peg. Okay. To Talmud Tidim, we learned over there. Klustera is a bolt which you use to bolt the door shut. Rabbi Yerushalmi Shabbos, in order to get it from one door to another, you can't really carry it. You have to shove it down on the ground and kind of kick it or push it from door to door. You can't actually carry it. Carrying this bolt is forbidden. Then you kick it or somehow shove it over to the other door where you want to use it. The you can hang the other door on Shabbos. No, you take it even a step further. It's like any other vessel. You're allowed to carry it in a courtyard. They said, our Mishnah is talking about a chotzer where there is no eruv. Says more what? How can you say this? In the chotzer it's about a chotzer, a courtyard where there is no eruv. It's like any other vessel and you can carry it. To chotzer sheinim ureves, if it has no eruv in the chotzer, you can't carry nothing there. I'm not even talking about you can carry. No way. So the way Rabbi Yosef b'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah and Chanina Mati ba Yosef b'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah Chanina Mati ba b'shem Rabbi Lezer, he inclined to say his name Rabbi Lezer Kodem la'taras kelim shanu. This is before they are matir vessels, right? And that's why Rabbi Yoshua says you can't carry it outright. You have to kind of kick it from place to place. Shove it from place to place, because it's before they're matir kalim. Even though it's the kli which is machto, it's leheter, right? It's to lock doors, but since it's before they're matir kalim, so it's also like any other keli, right? Says more, that cannot be either. Excuse me. Yikayim la'toras kalim shana v'tzoyva. It's talking about a case prior to there being matir kalim. Hadod to the tina in that case, harei kechol kalim v'taltels b'chotzer. How can their opinion that you can carry in the chotzer outright? Before they're matir, nobody disagreed. Everybody agreed that there was such a zero. So therefore, it can't be talking about before Torah's Kalim either. Bottom line is, we're stuck. We don't know when exactly this price is going on, what it's going on exactly. A Mishnah. We don't know what this Mishnah is going on. Nevertheless, being Yerushalmim, we forge weiter.
Maybe because they're kicking it, it's tiltum on its side.
I made a mistake. I apologize. I just did something very bad. Not very bad. Could be worse. The Gemara does answer. Sorry, I forgot. But the Gemara does answer. The Gemara says, no, even before Torah's Kalim, Kishlosha Kalim HaMetaltim B'chotzer, even before they're matir all Kalim, before they gave carte blanche to carry everything, there were 3 Kalim which could be carried in a Chotzer. Because even at that time, they had to be matir 3 basic implements. What are the 3 basic implements they're matir? Number 1, saking kteiluain, saking ktana, a small knife to cut food. Number 2, miktzah shel tvela, a large cleaver to cut apart pressed date cakes. And number 3, zuame lister, a ladle for the soup. Literally to remove the excess fat or stuff from the soup, but it's a ladle for the soup. So here too, they were matir moving, according to the opinion, they were matir, these 3, they were matir also the moving the bolt from place to place, because the bolt was also part and parcel of these kalim, which are essential, and therefore he yells that even before they're matir all other kalim, this is one of those which are mutter.
Now, the chotzer, did it have an eruv or didn't have an eruv?
It had an eruv. Right? And Machlokas is whether this is one of the mutter before HaTorah's kalim, whether this is one of the ones that are matir or not.
Pushing it is like a tiltum and atzah.
Right, that would be mutter. You're right, but the question was on the opinion which held that you can carry it out right. Okay, says more chatzoitros. It's the trumpet with which you blow Erev Shabbos, right, to signify the onset of Shabbos. Tokesh Lishis, you blow it the 3rd time, Rosh Hagag at the top of a roof, and Menichim and Koyim, you leave it there, the roof till after Shabbos. That's more of a low keli, is in a keli, why can't you move it? On Rabbi Yehuda and Koyim Lataras Kelim Shana, this is before they're matir kelim. Rabbi Zira B'Shem Rabbi Loza said, Kanim umaklos. It says in Kanimar, it says that when they used to come on Shabbos to change the show breads in the Beis Hamikdash, so they couldn't remove the little rods between the bread which held the one bread over the other. The maklos means when they used to shech the Pesach, the Korban Pesach, when Erev Pesach come in on Shabbos, So in order to, excuse me, they didn't have enough hooks in the Beis Hamikdash to hang them from in order to skin them. So they used to put their hand one on each other's shoulder and dangle it between the two of them, between two Kohanim, and they used to skin it that way. Do you remember that?
Yes.
From Sachin. So in that both these cases, if all kalim are mutter, so why can't you rearrange the rods on the shulchan, and why can't you take a stick in order to use to hold the korban, right? In order to dangle it and skin it.
Wasn't it said on the rods that you had the first collars had to be pushed off before you could put the second ones on?
Yeah, but they could have on Sunday would remove the rods in order to kind of air everything out. So why did they do the airing out on Shabbos? Right? They could have done it then. Why have to wait till Sunday? So says more. You're right. Rabbi Zir B'Shem said, "Kani maklos kol mataros kelim shonu." This is prior to the heta which they gave. In other words, the time of the Chemi when they asked for it. Obviously, even the Beis Hamikdash. Even though normally say Kohanim is rizimim, but they asked for this in the Beis Hamikdash as well, and that's why they couldn't use the rod. They couldn't tamper with the rods or use the sticks. The boards which you have in a ship, which are, I guess, are spare in order to make repairs. If they're used to cover a vessel, or food, they're like the cover of any vessel, and it's got to have the form of a vessel. Oh, I skipped, right? Amar, the next word being made is a typo. There's our old friend, Amar Rabbi Lo. I haven't had him in a long time. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Lo, obviously was an expert in Zroid, because he doesn't happen too much in Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Lo, I have a guy to Tamar Kikisu Kalim, even though you said that when it's used to cover a vessel, you can move it. It's got to look like a keli. It's not enough that you just wear. This is a very big chumrah. We never had this in the Bavli. It's not enough just to designate it as a kisui, as a cover of a vessel. It actually has to look like the cover of a vessel, not like a board.
So what about the door that you're designating as a table?
You better work. Oh, according to him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it won't work.
Right.
Yeah, it would have to look like it. Could be. I don't know. Taka doesn't say. Now this is the point you were making before. Anything which is you can carry with two people, you can carry it. Now this type, but it should be b'shlosha b'arba chamisha. If you need 3 or 4 or 5 people, also it's also to carry. So taka, anything up to 2 people have to carry, it's not muktzah. Anything heavier than that becomes muktzah. Why is that? Because you're kovelo makom, because it can't be moved except by several people. Why? I guess you could ask why 2 is mutter, but I guess it's not considered really chashuv at that point. It's only chashuv once it gets past 2 and requires 3 people to move. Okay? It says more. I'm Rabbi Zir said no. Became a datam Rabbi Shnai mutter. Once you said it's mutter as long as 2 people can hold it, I feel arba chamisha mutter. It's mutter even if it's larger than that. He argues, and it seems to be possible like him. And that's Rabbi Mona. That's that which Rabbi Mona said. Rabbi Yesa have Italian Taunin Safsolin Safsula. Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi, the young men were carrying the benches in the base medrash. Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi, the Sabaya Messiah, the old men helped them out. I obviously took several people to move the bench, and nonetheless it was mutter to move. Why is it mutter to move? Because we bask in that, no matter how many people it takes, you're allowed to move it. That doesn't make it move. Okay? Rabbi Lezer Sher Mechia said, Maisoyo, there was a mice even further than that, which is Titlu Koron Shel Beis Rebbe b'Shabbos. They moved the carriage in Rebbe's house, the wagon on Shabbos. Even though it took many people to move it, I guess. Distinguished woman's carriage. Excuse me. It obviously took a lot of people, and nonetheless they moved it. That's where a big deal. What's the chiddush? Velov kli wasn't a kli like anything else. We just said, okay, I'm allowed to move. What's the difference with this? So it says more. I'll tell you. You might say that since you only use it in the place where it is. No, I'm not sure what that means actually, because it's a wagon. No, it's not what he's saying. He's saying because of leaving the place.
This is what the Bright say.
The only time I would leave the place is to do something that's also in Shabbos.
So I guess normally you leave in one place unless you're actually traveling. so therefore you wouldn't be allowed to carry it, and traveling not allowed to do anyway. Something like that. It must be something like that. That's why I might think you're not allowed to carry on Shabbos. Come on, Shmuel, that you are. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Shmuel said, Kupas Gedolos, large baskets, Vesugin Gedol, another type of basket. Metalli no some Shabbos was allowed to carry them on Shabbos. Shlo Tomar, do not say, oh, Tashmisham b'Mkom and Emetalli no some. Do not say that since normally people don't move them, then you can't now carry them. They're still considered to be movables. You're allowed to carry them. Rabbi Abba Shem Shmuel said, Machbash mitos. This is something, a frame they used to put around the bed in order to shape the mattress. So obviously mattresses were made of hay. They got, spread it out over time. This frame you're allowed to use you're allowed to move on Shabbos. Again, you might have thought it's muktzah, them people leave in specific places, therefore not allowed to move it. Kamashal and you are. Right, Baba Shem Rav said, Kovad el yom atachta, the upper weight and the lower weight in a mill, metafli no son, you're allowed to carry them on Shabbos, but not the pillars which are embedded in the ground, which hold the millstones. Amrei Rabbi Ba. Right, exactly. Amrei Ba. Well, I'm not sure. The B'tei Moshe says not because of ground, but because of Ashvuyeh Gumos. It's going to cut to smooth the ground when you move it. Alright, but other Tamar Ba'omdim Shisham, that's those that stand there permanently. Shisham, they're fixed there. Sounds more like you than the B'tei Moshe, because they're fixed to the ground. I like yours far better. Ba'omdim Shisham. Ava Ba'omdim, it should be Shekan. Not Shabain, but Shekan. Mutter, those which are stand here, meaning that they're portable. So they're not, if it's a portable mill, kind of like an early forerunner of the PC. If it's a portable mill, so then you're allowed to use even the pillars which hold the weights on Shabbos, hold the stones on Shabbos. Rav said, these are sticks and ropes which have to do with a loom. Allowed to carry them on Shabbos. Now this is a machlokas. Ma'at Rabbi Yesa, Rabbi Yechon. That which Rabbi Yesa, the name Rabbi Yechon was. Ma'at Rabbi Yesa, that which Rabbi Yesa said was that I'm not sure where to put the punctuation. Yes, Ma'at Rabbi Yossi Omar was based on Rabbi Yochanan Shol Rabbi ben Levi. On a tradition he had the Rabbi Yochanan as Rabbi Levi, Rabbi ben Levi. Ma'al Tato Klei Koris b'Shabbos. Are you allowed to carry the loom components on Shabbos? He said you can. Rabbi ben Pazi, however, Lo Amar didn't say this. El Rabbi Yochanan Shol Rabbi ben Levi. On the contrary, the Maisa was different. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rabbi Levi, Ben Levi, Ma'al Tato Klei Koris b'Shabbos. Allowed to carry parts of loom on Shabbos. Amalei Ema Tatlin. Not allowed to carry them. Amalei Lama. So he said, why? Why is they not carried? They're not carried. What does it mean they're not carried? Too heavy or too chashuv in your miyakid and malcolm. You guys live in a specific place. Okay? Not a lot of corners. A person can take a hammer. I think it's a hammer. Yeah. A hammer, lifto boy goes into crack nuts. Kordam, an axe, lachto bozadil, in order to cut open to crack the date, the pressed date. Megira, a sword or some sort of other sharp implement. Lagobos agvina to cut cheesecakes. No, cakes of cheese, not cheesecakes. Cakes of cheese. Magrefa, this is kind of like a shovel. Ligrobos agrogeris to shovel up. Excuse me, the dried figs. As a rachas, you're allowed to take a rachas, there's a mazleg, these are kinds of pitchforks and other kinds of implements. Less you'll have to cut them in order to feed the child, because you use the fork in order to feed the child. Adults ate with their hands. As a kush, you're allowed to use various different forms of needle. As a kush, as a kark, litbo v'mach, litko bo, in order to push them into something. I'm not sure exactly to push them into, maybe garbage to pick it up. I'm not sure what you're doing there. But anyway, machat shalyad, you're allowed to take a needle. No, the Pneumosh says use it to pick up the needles. The large needles used to pick up berries from the ground. Of course, the berries cannot be mechuber l'karka because it's Shabbos, but they're using to pick up the berries from the ground.
This is his original.
Machot shalita was a coat. Shal sakoim, the one of a small needle can be used to take out a thorn or a splinter. The sakoim, a large one, those can be used to pick a lock instead of a key. If you don't have the key. So it says it sounds like the only reason you're allowed to take this hammer is in order to break the nuts. But if not for the breaking nuts, you're not allowed to carry it. Masdi said Rabbi Nechemia. That sounds like Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia said, "Any time lo tzorach." You're not allowed to carry vessels for a purpose, and this would not be purposeful unless using it to break nuts. Rabbi Bob and Rabbi Yehuda B'Shem, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Chanina B'Shem B'Shem Rav, they all said, Modin Chachamim Rabbi Nechemia has nothing to do with whether our mission is Rabbi Nechemia or not. This is just an independent statement. Chachamim consider Rabbi Nechemia that the three machines you cannot move because they are too significant, even after Matur Kelim. What are those? Bezaira, Uvimzura, Umchena. What are those three things? Bezaira to atarba. A zaira is something with which you press. You press. It's like heavy beams with which you press the grapes. B'mizaira, that's another type of element to chaviv used in order to beat chaff out of grain. B'mechayna do katish bay, and you know that you move the machine, because this is a machine which like crushes the kernels of the grain. Now, kliyam yuchad l'isr, metatlo so torah. A vessel which is normally used for a prohibited purpose, one is allowed to carry it if it's necessary. No, I read that. Besides, that's why you press with it. B'mezura du chayiba, which you thresh with shit, or b'mchayna du kaddish, which you crush with it. Kliyam yuchad is the same way to kli, which is designated for the purpose of an isr, such as a hammer. But talon so you can carry for necessity. Leheter, if it's necessary if it's klisham lachto leheter, such as a fork. Ben tzar ben shlo tzar, you can carry whether it's for a specific purpose or not. Amar Rabbi Yisrael said, "Re'ei areichon ekilu b'Shabbos." See how lenient they were on Shabbos, right? Shafilu dvarim she'eit hashmidas shem Shabbos, even stuff which is not necessary for Shabbos, so it's carrying the fork just for the fun of it. Who teacher some Shem Shabbos, and they were allowed that on Shabbos. Now, new thing, instead of the marriage be Omar. Omar Abelaz is Bupaki. Bupaki is like a table. It's like a buffet table. So Matame, Lamitame, why does it come to him? Because even though you eat at a regular table, not at the buffet table, but the Shamash he eats at the buffet table. So it's a keli for him, keli for an other. What is the base of this serving table? Why is it mitame? Because sometimes the shamash stands on it in order to get at something. Hey, come see. How by tuma there is so mach. Even these are not normally used as a table. Right, a table is used by human being, but the something you stand on, that should be mitame, right? Nevertheless, timos l'shay table, they put tamid as part of the table. Okay, so even though it's not, doesn't have any receptacle, and it's not even used for human being, right? Because it's just used to stand on for time to time. Nonetheless, they deem the tamid very machmir by tuma. Okay, as harachos as malgez, they can use the pitchforks to lattes l'kotan. In order to give the child to eat, you can use the needles in order to plug stuff. Now, Rabbi Simon said a very interesting thing. All the Mefarshim here go crazy what this means. But I think it's bullshit. I'll explain to you the way I understand it, and you'll see it works out very simply, I think. Surely Rabbi Avo Mason Shabbos. Rabbi Avo allowed a person to put down a plaster bandage on himself on Shabbos. Not to smear, just to put it down. Mason is like recline, right? When you lie down on something. Hasava, Haseva, Lil Pesach. So he allowed him to put on a bandage on Shabbos, which had some salve or ointment on it. Okay? So a poultice, is that what they're called? Poultice, Poultice. What's a poultice? So this is something similar. It has some chemicals in it which will pull the
So it's not refuah.
It is refuah. That's what I was about to say. Says more. Right, Bob Bar Kom Shir said Masnisa Amarke. Our Mishnah says that. Well, how so? It says Machal Shayad Lit the Bosa Coats. Who says you're allowed to move a needle in order to remove a thorn, even though it's a Klisha Machtul Isser, right? Normally so it. So too the bandage is a Klisha Machtul Isser. But if a person's in anguish, they're allowed to use it. The same idea. Just like for the Tsar, they're allowed to remove for anguish, they're allowed to remove splinters. So too they allow this. It's parallel. Okay? The low cane, if you don't say that, might be in the coats of Zeb. What's the difference between a thorn and this? Why would you matter a thorn and to remove a thorn and not this? They're both for anguish and therefore they're both mutter. Rabbi Baba Bekumi Raimoni asks for a the poultice is made out of some chemicals and stuff. So is one allowed to need the chemicals on Shah Yontif? So he says, Amalei in Ochel Nefesh. No, because it's not Ochel Nefesh. Why is it not Ochel Nefesh? Because it's not truly sick. So, and it's not something which you're eating. So therefore, if it was an oil with which you anoint yourself, so then it's possible to say that that's considered Ochel Nefesh, because we say Sicha is Kishasiyah, right? To anoint is like drinking. But if you're doing it for Refuah, which is not true anointing, then it wouldn't be mutter. Okay? Halacha Gimel. Kana shel zaysim, if you have a stick for olives. Now they used to stick the stick into the olive batch to see if it was ready, after it was pressed. And yesh kesher barosho, if it's got a knot at its top, mikabel to me. You know what that's like? The stick with the knot. It's like those little spoons you receive from Beis Shraga and Mutzi from Tikas Chometz. You get the little wooden spoons.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
It
Has a base kibble. Right. That's what I was going to discuss. Okay. This has basically that kesher is like a knot. It literally means a knot, but it means here a receptacle. Makabel to mean lavin, if not any makabel to. Benkach, regardless, nita b'Shabbos is a vessel to be carried on Shabbos. What is this? It's a kodesh. It's kinam b'lios b'bolei. It was set aside in order to check the olives. Ketzad, how so? Hoyadem luchel b'mashke. Ketzad, how we know if the olives are ready or not? Im luchel b'mashke, when they took it out of the mixture, there was some liquid attached to it. B'yadush nimram le'el samata means it was fully pressed. Literally, the work of the pressing was finished. Being low, if there wasn't liquid on it, low biadush lo nibram lech samaton, then you would know that it wasn't fully pressed. Says well, no, for that you don't have to have a receptacle in it. You just check if it gets wet or not, right? Amalei Raimona lo taishmo leo sholabo azesim has to have the receptacle in order to take out some olives. You have to check the olives personally. You can't just rely on whether it's liquid or not. So that was necessary to. That was necessary in order to actually remove olives from the pressing batch. That's what he says here. Elio sholabo zaysim, to remove the olives. Now, new thing. If you have a stick which you're using in order to close your window, but let's say, like the Bavli does say, according to one opinion, Rabbi Lezer, that has to be tied on and dangling from the window in order to use it to close the window. We had that very recently, right? Within the past couple of months, right? If not, but you're not allowed to use it to close your window because it looks like you're adding on to the building. If it's designated for the purpose, even though it's not yet tied and dangling, Sheina Kosher totally still allowed to use it. But look at Rabbi Yochanan, ask me, I don't understand. Then Rabbi Yochanan say, Mashcheni chilfai, Ilfa dragged me, Ve'arani nagar Mishel Beis Rabbi. He showed me that stick in the house of Rabbi, and it was kosher, Alpha B'Shein Otoli. It was neither. It wasn't on the ground, nor was it dangling. It was kosher and not toli, right? It was somewhere in the middle. Because Rosh Hashanah holds you need both kosher and toli, tied on and dangling. Rabbanan holds all you need is neither. You just need to have designated. So here he came to Rabbi's house. It was kosher but not toli. It was tied but it was dangling on the ground. So what was happening there? Rabbi became shenotla v'nos to be odo nasik mafteach. The truth is, it just happened to the way Moshe explained. Just by coincidence, it happened to be hanging. Then it doesn't have to be hanging. Rather, once it's designated, that's sufficient, even if it's not hanging from anywhere. Okay, halach dal, cooking with gas tonight. Kol keni tolim b'Shabbos. Every vessel be carried on Shabbos. Chutz min hameser agolo, except for a large saw, v'yotzei shemach reisha, and the peg of a plow. All vessels can be carried, whether you need them or whether you don't need them, which is Rabbanan. Of course, who we're already familiar with, says they're only carried if you need them. Rabbi Neshem Rav said, Rabbi Nechemia, a tremendous chumrah, that you can only carry, you're only allowed to carry if it's the rabbis of Babylonia, right? One said, we don't know which said which. One said it's L'tzorach means L'tzorach gufo. L'tzorach means for the need, for the use of the object itself, such as a hammer to crack nuts. Shelo L'tzorach means Shelo L'tzorach gufo, when you're not using the hammer itself, even if it is L'tzorach makomo, right? You're moving the hammer from place to place because you need the place. That's not considered to be sufficiently L'tzorach. It's not considered L'tzorach. And Rabbi Yechemia anytime el L'tzorach gufo. So Tanakh holds you can take it for any reason. Rabbi Yechemia holds you can only take it if it's L'tzorach gufo. The Choron Amar, the other partner in the sparring match, said L'tzorach means L'tzorach gufo u L'tzorach makomo. In order to move it, you can move it either for L'tzorach gufo because you want to use it to crack nuts, or because you need the place where it was.
Is it either or is it and?
Both. Either. Shlo L'tzorach means Shlo L'tzorach gufo v'shlo L'tzorach makomo when it's neither. Rabbi Yechemia any told me L'tzorach gufo L'tzorach makomo, you can take it for either of those reasons, but not any other reasons. Tadi we learned Amar Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yisrael lo nechlu Beisham Beisilo. In another case, Beisham Beisilo did not argue. Al Amaleim Shematalti no Som Shlo L'tzorach, on vessels which are full. One second. What am lame? I guess it's just full vessels. Yeah, obviously, because it has stuff in it. Right, it has stuff in it, so it's a tzorach, right? Beishayim still didn't argue. I'm lame. If it's full of something, they carry it even shlo tzorach gufo makoma because it has stuff in it. That's essential. For a konim, you can even carry empty vessels. Sheish b'day tulam aloysin. If you have in mind to carry, fill them up. Al now nechlu what they can argue on. Al she'em b'day tulam if you didn't have in mind to fill them up. Shebeishayim ayoyslin. Beishayim says you cannot carry them. Beisil matir. Beisil says mutter. Aha, says more. I said the Beishayim Rabbi Nechemia. Beishamai says you can't carry for no reason. That's like Rabbi Nechemia. Atamarta locha Rabbi Nechemia. So you said to me at the beginning of the Sugya, lo like Rabbi Nechemia. The law locha Beishamai. Does that not mean it looks like Beishamai? So that's a no-no. So therefore, we don't pass neither like Rabbi Nechemia nor like Beishamai. Okay, that's the way the Pnei Moshe learns. Kombinated is a different shot, but the Pnei Moshe says if it's Beishamai comes out of Rabbi Nechemia and passing Rabbi Nechemia and tells passing like Beishamai, then we can't pass like Rabbi Nechemia, and therefore we pass like Rabbanan that a keli can be carried l'tzorach shlo l'tzorach. Right? Now this is kol keli, right? Here it sounds like all kelim, and the Yerushalmi will in fact stick with this a little bit. We actually had it back here, as a matter of fact, and I glossed over it. If you take a look back on Pei Beis on Beis after the Mishnah, that Hashalol Fatseab and after Halacha Beis Hashalol Fatseabo lo, it says if you're not taking the hammer to crack nuts, not to carry it, Masis Rabbi Nechemia, that's a Rabbi Nechemia, Damar Rabbi Nechemia, Eini Tolmo L'tzorech. You're only allowed to carry it for a purpose, right? Now it sounds like Rabbanan you're allowed to carry even a hammer Shalol L'tzorech, even though a hammer is a Klisham Lachtul Isser. Even though its purpose is prohibited, nonetheless you carry shlo l'tzorach. So it sounds like the Yerushalmi actually holds in both here and there that according to Nechemia, klisham lachtul isser now it's carry except tzorach gufo makomo. According to Rabbanan, even klisham lachtul isser you're allowed to carry shlo tzorach gufo makomo. Because it seems like that's the machlokas. So later on, Lieberman proves later on that. That's not true. Where does he prove that from? Oh, because later on in that same Gemara, 2 lines down, it said, Kliyam yuchal l'isser metalchen l'sol l'tzorech. Letter ben shlo l'tzorech, ben shlo l'tzorech. If it's kliyam yuchal l'isser, then you need to have a tzorech for it. So even though it sounds like here we're being mati according to Rabbanan, carte blanche, even a klisham machtul l'isser, even shlo l'tzorech, it's not true. The bottom line is a klishal machtul isser must be l'tzorech. Klishal machtul heter, that doesn't have to be l'tzorech. Okay. Halacha hey, kol kelim nitolim Shabbos, any vessel should be carried on Shabbos. Shivrei nitolin, you can carry its broken shards if it breaks. As long as they're suitable for some work. Shivrei reva, such as the broken pieces of a mixing bowl. You can use the carrot to cover the top of a barrel. Shows chuch is the broken piece of glass, to cover the top of a tin container. Rabbi Yehuda, it's not enough that they can still be used, but vachu also made melachton. They have to be usable in a way similar to their original use, such as shivri areva, the broken pieces of a mixing bowl, latzuk l'sochad mikpeh, have to be usable in order to pour into them a porridge, because that's similar to what they originally used for. They originally used for kneading dough. A porridge is something similar to a dough. Which shows chuchis and oil, broken pieces of glass have to be used to tzul toch of Hashem. They have to be used to hold oil, which is analogous to what they originally did, which is to hold stuff. Okay. Time of day we learned over there is chuchis ligor borosh hakar kar. I don't understand. We learned when we learned about Otzah that what's the minimum shiur of glass in order to be chayev? Enough glass to sharpen the top of a stick, top of a sewing needle. Here he's saying it has to be larger than it has to have some capacity to either cover or even contain. Yet back there, he said, in just a small piece, enough to serve to sharpen a stick of wood. So it says, we've had the same answer several times already. Okay, sorry, he said, first answer we didn't have several times. Second answer, if it's thick glass, so you can't use it in order to sharpen stuff. If it's thin glass, then you can use the sharp glass. Then you can use it to dull ovas like dough. And chada sharp. So if it's sharp glass, the shiur is a smaller shiur, enough to sharpen. This answer we had several times. That in order to carry it, in order to get out of muktzah, it's got to be a keli. That's larger. In order to be chayav on otzah, you're chayav on otzah, which is not a keli, as long as it's useful. That means even a small piece, as long as it's useful for something, which means to sharpen, even if it's not truly a keli. Okay? No, it did too. Seems like 3. A long block today. That's what. This is only the second half. I'm debating whether to do halacha vav because it's a little bit complicated. It's not hard, but we're not going to be able to finish by 9 o'clock. No, we can't make the end of the parak. That for sure not, because I didn't prepare that part. We'll start. What time do you have?
Couple of minutes tonight.
4 minutes tonight.
All right, let's start. Halacha vav. Evan should be kiruya, a stone which is in a bucket. If you fill up water with the bucket and the stone will fall out, you can use it. If not, you can't use it because we're afraid that the stone is going to fall out. It's more similarly if you have a piece of wood, shiur b'tfiach, which is tied onto the kiruya, is like a gourd. A tfiach is a true bucket. Ma'alasor Shabbos allowed to use to carry out to fill up on Shabbos. Now, later on, we're going to learn. Now, Evan B'soch, if you have a child who's carrying a bucket, and there's a stone in the bucket, you're allowed to carry the child. So it says, Tani Vei Rebbe, the house already said, it has to be a case where the bucket the child is carrying has food in it, not where it just has a stone in it. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Barzidi B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda said, "Is Palmer Rabbi Chia B'Reis Rabbi Yochanan." This is machlokas actually between Rabbi Chia B'Reis Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia B'Reis said, "Kamastis, you don't like our Mishnah. You don't need any food in the bucket. Doesn't say our Mishnah need any food in the bucket. Don't need any food in the bucket." Rabbi Yochanan said, "Cause Tani Rabbi Yochanan said like the house. Said that's right. We need some food in the bucket in order to carry it." Says one Master. He said, "Please, Rabbi Yochanan, have it should be kiruya." Our Mishnah argues Rabbi Yochanan, right? It says if you have a stone in the bucket, if you can fill up with a bucket, it's not going to fall, so you're allowed to fill up with it. Why don't you need food in the bucket in our Mishnah? Our Mishnah sounds like even if there's a stone in the bucket, you're allowed to use the bucket or the gourd without any food in it. Later on he says you need food in the bucket in order to be able to carry the kid who's carrying the bucket. What's the difference? So it says Gemara, here, Kevan Shiafutza, since it's connected to it, right? It says Enonophelis means it's wedged into it tightly. It's wedged in, so it's not going to fall out. The Afutza means it's wedged. So here it's wedged in. So therefore it becomes Tafel, becomes like subordinate to the Kevan Shiafutza. Kigufa becomes like the body of the bucket, and that's where it's mutter. Okay, what about the Sefer of our Mishnah? Sefer Pliga Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef. The end of the Mishnah says that if it's not wedged in, if you have a boy, you're not allowed to fill up with it. Yet over there, Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef says you're allowed to carry your kid who's carrying a bucket even if it has no food in it. even as a stone, even as the food in it. Why? He argues on our mission sounds not like way. It sounds like it has to be specifically wedged in. So it says more Mavidan came and Shasuya Lachbid. Since in our since over there in that Mishnah.
Then by all means you can collect the compensation for us cutting it down.
No, in our Mishnah. So in our Mishnah, since the stone, our stone is more usher, because the stone over here is made to give the bucket weight, in order that it should sink to the bottom of the well. So that means that the stone is choshev. By the kid who's carrying the bucket which has a stone in it, the kid put the stone in it. There has no chashivas to that stone, so therefore it doesn't do anything to affect the status of the bucket. But here, the stone is there for a purpose, in order to weight down the bed to the bucket. Instead of weight down the bucket, that's why now to carry it. If it's not, unless it's wedged in, because then it becomes choshev. The rest of the bucket is like carrying it. Okay, that's it says since it's made to weigh down the bucket. It's as if you're carrying the bucket on top of the stone, not the stone inside the bucket. Now, what does Rabbi Yochanan do with our sefer? Not with our sefer, with our reisha. What does our Rabbi Yochanan do with the reisha? Yeah, in other words, where it's wedged in, why is it permissible? So the stone is important. So again, like we said before, because there it becomes part and parcel of the cord. It's part of the wall. Now, Masisa Pliga Rabbi Yochanan. It seems that the Machlokas later on, the Mishnah later on, argues Rabbi Yochanan, because it says later on, Noitel Adam Benovo, Evan Biyado, a person can take his son and his son with a stone in his hand, or a Kalkola of Evan Besocha, or a bucket with a stone inside it. Now, I understand that where it's in the bucket, so then you said together with the stone in the bucket you have food. But what about where your kid is holding the stone? In and of itself, according to Rabbi Yochanan, why are you allowed to carry a kid who's holding the stone in that case? So the Gemara gives one answer is obvious, and one which is very lumdish. Says the Gemara, one answer, it's part of the question. You need to have the stone with food, and here's just carrying a stone by itself. So first the answer is Pashan. Rabbi Kohen Sherabban said, the Talmud said, Rabbi Kohen said, name the rabbis at Bavel, Tinok also so kochin. A child is like food. Just like the child is the food, right? Because you want to carry your child, right? So carrying a child holding the stone is like carrying a bucket holding a food and a stone. The child is in lieu of the stone. It's a choshev thing which counterbalances the stone. You don't like that answer? The next one you like. That was the Pashut answer. The next one is the Lumdish answer. Tam and Armin, I guess they said in Bavel, also Evan biatino kikameh mumche biaratino. They made the stone in the kid's hand like an expert amulet in the hands of its hand. Well, in the hands of a kid. Why is that? Because the kid likes the stone, so it becomes a toy. Right? It's like a pacifier for him. You see? Great minds think alike. You and the Lumdish answer the more. So that's why it's mutter over there, because it becomes part and parcel of the kid's plaything, and therefore it's okay. Persona.